Le Nissan Kick-Play 2025 a beaucoup de plus. Apple CarPlay intégré pour jouer vos tunes préférées, des fonctions avancées de sécurité, un rendement énergétique remarquable, puis même la petite odeur de char neuf qu'on aime tant. Tout ça en plus pour moins. Le Nissan Kick Play 2025 est le véhicule neuf le plus abordable au Québec. Achetez-le à partir de seulement 22 774 $, incluant un rabais à l'achat comptant de 2 600 $. Profitez de cette offre avantageuse chez votre concessionnaire dès maintenant. Jusqu'au 2 mars, des conditions s'appliquent. Détails chez Nissan.
All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Listen, I'm still looking at the latest from the Bank of Canada and the drop in the interest rates, 0.5 point cut. I'm going to have some stuff to say about that decision because it does not look good for the Canadian economy. We'll do that in about 10 minutes' time. But I want to start off this hour of the show talking about children and mental health. Now, Tel Jeune, Quebec's youth helpline, has reported a surge in mental health-related calls. A notable increase, get this, from children aged 6 to 11. In 2024, the helpline assisted 30,000 youth, with 15% expressing suicidal thoughts. Calls about stress, bullying, anxiety, mental health now make up 40% of all inquiries. Experts attribute this rise to pandemic-related isolation and an increase in access to technology. Let's go to Dr. Samantha Goldwater-Adler, a Montreal clinical psychologist specializing in child psychology. Dr. Goldwater-Adler, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So what's your reaction when you hear about this, that we're seeing just an unprecedented increase, and the youth hotline here, the helpline, says they've never seen it like this. What's your reaction?
Well, honestly, I feel sad and I feel really concerned. This won't surprise you to hear that it's not just Tel Jeune that has these increases that have been going on, that the figures in youth mental health across Canada and in Quebec have really significantly worsened since the pandemic started in 2019. That's much higher rates for kids and teens of anxiety, depression, self-harm, and even suicide. And that's particularly for rural and Indigenous youth. And unfortunately, the numbers have gone much worse, and there's not enough services to be able to meet these kids' needs.
Can I ask you, I'm thinking about when I was 6 to 11 years old, and we didn't talk about mental health. It was never a discussion. And I have this fear, this concern, that it's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. We keep telling 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, oh, it's your mental health. You need to, you should be, and they've never thought of it before in their lives. And I think, like I said, self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we talk about it, the worse it's getting. And I think we're spiraling out of control. Am I on to anything here, Doctor?
Well, I appreciate what you're bringing up. And I think that, some of what you're bringing up goes also in the other end, that as awareness of mental health problems and as has increased and stigma has gone down. When I was growing up, it wasn't something that you can go just see a therapist when you were a kid. That wasn't okay to say, or to say, God forbid, if you were on antidepressants or something, well, no, you were crazy, you were broken. That wasn't okay. But what that meant is that when we were growing up, for a lot of us, we really experienced quite a lot of need for services and weren't empowered to be able to go ask for help. We didn't have access to, part of the reason, the slight upshot of the increases in calls, let's say to Tel-Ed or to Tel Jeunesse and people going to hospitals to look for services, is that it means that kids have more access to phones and to social media to be able to ask for help when they need it. And because stigma has gone down and awareness has gone up, more kids are willing to ask for help, and parents are a bit better able to pick up when their kids are struggling instead of just saying, tough it out, figure it out. When I talk to adult clients, I work with kids, teens, and adults. When I talk to adult clients and I talk about their childhood, they were often really struggling in really horrible ways. We're being bullied, we're really depressed, we're crying, we're self-cutting, had anxiety issues going on, and that just wasn't being paid attention to. They really didn't get the help that they needed, which is part of the reason that they're then coming to see me today.
So, what I'm struggling with is, tough it out. And I think saying tough it out to everyone in every circumstance, not a good thing. But I also think the opposite message to everyone, also not good. I'm like, to me, moderation is the key. Are we not just going down a path where everyone, I had someone to me, this happened like a year ago, and they're seeing a psychologist, and they find it's really beneficial and they're enjoying it. They were just chatting, and honestly, I've never been happier in life. And they're like, "Oh, you should see someone." And I was like, well, and they're like, no, I'm not. It's good for you. You should go see someone. Everyone should go see someone. They said to me, and I said, no, I disagree. Not everyone should go see someone. And so that's what I'm trying to get down to, is that my worry is, like, I don't want kids who are really facing tough things in life that I can't imagine. I don't want them to tough it out. But I think we're like any kid. Oh, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. I have a test. And we're like, oh, that's a mental health day now. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out if we've gone off the deep end either way.
Well, it's an interesting point that you're bringing up, and on some level, I do think that there can be a bit of a culture now of pathologizing kind of basic negative emotions. We all feel anxious or depressed or down sometimes, and that's normal and that's part of life, and that's not a bad thing. That's often cueing us to important things that we should pay attention to in our lives. Like, I don't like this. Maybe I should do something about it. However, and for certain adults particularly who are doing fine, right, and are functioning well and feeling good in their lives, well, maybe therapy isn't going to be the best fit for them because, that's kind of like, well, if it ain't broke, what do you need to fix it for?
Yeah.
However, when we're getting to kids, yes, on a basic level, we don't want to be, every time that a kid has, a tummy ache or is feeling a little bit worried, saying, well, no, you don't have to go to school anymore. You don't have to see your friends. You don't have to participate in your activities. Of course not. That would definitely lead to, just increased problems for kids. However, a lot of the kids that are calling places, when it's getting to the point that kids are calling, let's say, Tajed, or when they're actually going to the hospital to seek services, or they're coming to see someone like me in the private sector, once they're getting to that point, it's usually not a bobo, right? It's usually not something. These are real problems that these kids are experiencing that they're really, really struggling with and that they need help with. Yeah. And unfortunately, at this point, those numbers have gone way up since the pandemic, and there just really is not enough access to services. Even the private system, the wait lists are really sad. Like, they're really not reasonable.
Doctor, let's say I could give you a magic wand, and I say it's Dr. Samantha Goldwater-Adler, and you're a clinical psychologist, but you're also now a wizard. You've got a magic wand. And you could wave the magic wand, and poof, like that, children, they don't have access to phones until they're 16 years old. There's no social media. There's no screen time. Do you think that solves at least a bit of the problem?
It's a complicated question. I think for a lot of kids, for social media for social media in particular, I think some kids would get much better. I think, unfortunately, for marginalized kids, like kids from more rural communities or kids with, let's say, who are LGBTQ or have, or are neurodivergent, sometimes for the kids that find it hard to find community in real life, in their daily lives, social media can be a real boon for them and really give them a sense of connection. And that could be really important for them. And taking that away would really suck, because now you've taken away their only access to finding a tribe, to finding people that are like them.
Could that be a problem?
Complicated.
But could that be a problem? What you say, like you must have a tribe. Like, isn't that part of the problem? Shouldn't we be telling people there are no tribes? Everyone's the same. You know what? Even if you think you don't have anything in common, they are someone you can talk to. Like, that's a worry too. Along the lines of self-fulfilling prophecy, if we're telling children, no, you know what? You need to talk to people who are exactly like you halfway across the world instead of your neighbor that you have nothing in common with. I worry about that.
There's extremes, as you're pointing out, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So if we're going into, fundamentally, we're mammals, and we're social mammals, historically nomadic. We evolved living in tribes. That is our, quote, natural state, and that's where we feel the most comfortable, and a lot of our wiring is built around that. It's finding small groups of kind of like-minded people that we feel safe with. And that's how we're wired. Now, that can go to extremes, of course. If it's just, well, no, if we have that sort of extreme tribalism, which is, well, no, I can only hang out with somebody else who's exactly my religion, who's exactly my age, who's exactly my gender identity, exactly my sexual orientation, exactly my clothing style and music taste. well, then we're going to get more and more and more marginalized and more, we're just going to start living in an echo chamber, right? Where it just becomes, well, I'm only going to hear people with similar views, and I'm going to feel more and more isolated and disconnected in my daily life. Mm-hmm. However, there's the within reason part of it, right? Which is we're not all going to be besties with our neighbor, even, and for people particularly in rural communities or that really have trouble getting along with the people, very close around them, having access to, expanding that net is going to do a lot for mental health, especially where social isolation is such a huge predictor of major mental and physical health problems all throughout life, including for the elderly.
Doctor, listen, you are a great talker. You come back, okay? Honestly, I really enjoyed the discussion.
I'd love to. Thanks.
That's
Great question.
Thank you. We'll talk again real soon. That's Dr. Samantha Goldwater-Adler, a Montreal clinical psychologist, specializes in child psychology, anxiety, depression disorders, among others.